Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Altition, Director of Client Partnerships here at Pacific Cascade Legal. And today we have certified financial planner Greg Kurinec to talk about retirement investment accounts and how they fit into your overall retirement plan. Hey, Greg, how you doing today?
Fantastic, Steve. Thank you for
Well,
having me.
I thank you for coming. This is part two of the never-ending series, retirement planning. And today, I'd like to kind of talk about what retirement investment accounts are, um,
Sure.
and what aren't retirement investment accounts. You maybe like that can go into retirement, but they're not really you going out and investing in them. And so before that, let's just kind of start about, because we didn't talk about this in our first one very much, just the importance of having a plan, actually having a retirement plan.
Well, yeah, that everything needs to start with the plan, right? If we're taking a trip, I mean, we're so reliant on our GPS and everything to go everywhere we go, whether it's to the grocery store to see if we have, to take a different route because there's traffic or there's an accident or something like that. Why wouldn't we approach our retirement plan the same way? So everybody needs to start with a plan. I don't care how much or how little money you have because there's a lot of decisions that come into play when we're planning for retirement, whether it be like we talked in our last session, social security planning, but then we have all these different retirement accounts that we might have. We have to coordinate it with our retirement income. Then we have to have a tax plan in place to make sure that we're not paying too much tax. I don't want to tip the IRS. I want them to get their fair share, but I don't want to give them any more than they have to. So how do I coordinate my distribution, whether it be from my 401k, my Roth IRA, my after tax account? How much should I be taking from each? So putting a plan together so that we know what road to run on. But let me say this. I believe it's an old Hebrew saying, but we plan, God laughs. Okay. So you could have this best plan that you create and you spent all this time involved on it, but you need to be fluid. Things are going to change. Heaven forbid you have a health event. Maybe you receive an inheritance. Maybe a child comes home and lives with you, so you need to you have an increase in your expenses. Okay. Something's going to change along the way throughout retirement. There is no such thing as a straight line retirement. Something's going to change, and you need to be willing and able to adapt. So again, that's why having a financial plan isn't like putting the book on the shelf and forgetting about it. This is something that you should be reviewing on a constant basis, whether it be a couple times a year with your financial advisor on an annual basis, but it should be continually reviewed all the time to make sure that, yeah, I'm still on track. Oh, actually, I'm ahead of the game. Maybe I can take that extra trip that I wanted to do, or maybe I can start to give to charity or to the kids or something along those lines. It's always a good idea to review that.
I love that. I love that. The planning thing and your analogy to your maps going to the store. I swear, if Siri told me invest in this tomorrow, I would.
Well, don't trust Siri or Chat GPT or any of that right now. I don't think we're quite there yet.
No, good. It's a good thing. So let's talk about before we kind of get into some of the how they work all together, the different actual kinds of investments accounts that are normally there for you. And maybe, some that aren't necessarily considered an investment account, but maybe just end up being one.
Yeah. Steve, we talk a lot about diversification. And everybody talks about diversification. And when we intuitively think of diversification, we usually think the difference between stocks and bonds, right? Equities and fixed income. That's where everybody's mind goes to is the investments. But what I want to do in talking about different retirement accounts is talk about tax diversification. Okay. Well, we have these retirement accounts. When ERISA came into law in the 70s and they took away a lot of the private pensions from the companies, they created this new thing called a 401k or a 403b. And they said, here, you get to control it. You don't get to yell at the pension board about how they invest the money. You get to invest your money and we'll give you some match, we'll give you some free money, but then you get to share in the market returns and you get to create all this, which everybody was very, very excited about. And 401ks are a great tool. 403bs, 457, SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, all these pre-tax accounts that allow us to defer income now, not pay any tax on it now, and then wait to pay the tax later. They're fantastic tools when used appropriately. Take advantage of some of those free monies that employers are giving to you. But the number one key is start now. Start saving as soon as you can if we have younger people listening to this, and continue to save and readjust your savings each year and monitor it. So we're most used to those pre-tax accounts, okay? Our 401ks, IRAs, things like that. Then we have what are our post-tax accounts, but they still provide us some maybe tax benefits. And those are our Roth IRAs or our Roth 401ks. So they work very similarly to your traditional 401k or your traditional IRA, except the money goes in after tax. So you don't get any tax benefit in the year in which you contribute. However, you are never going to pay any tax on any of that money ever again. So if you put in $50,000 into your Roth 401k and forgot about it for 30 years, and 30 years down the line, that 401k, that Roth 401k is now worth $100,000. Well, you get 50,000 of free money out of there. All of it comes out completely tax free. That's a benefit. So the analogy that I like to use with clients, would you rather pay tax on the seed that we put in the ground, or would you rather pay tax on the harvest? I'm going to pay tax on the seed. It's a lot less right now. We don't know where the harvest is going to be and what tax rates we're going to be in the future. So I'm going to not pay tax after I let that seed grow and blossom and grow into this huge thing. So Roth 401ks, Roth IRAs are great tools. Now, if we're dealing with high income earners, it still does make sense to use traditional accounts to get some of that tax deferral. But what I like to do is find an opportunity to potentially maybe blend some of those contributions. Maybe I can get a portion of it into traditional and a portion into Roth. So those are our two forms of retirement accounts. But one thing that we're ignoring here is what about our non-qualified or our after-tax money? Okay. Most of us think of it as our checking and savings account money market. But what about our non-qualified brokerage accounts? Okay. Where we're not getting any tax benefits right now. Our tax benefit is when we sell or withdraw money from that account, we could be potentially paying a lower tax through capital gains tax instead of ordinary income. So those are our three diversification tools for tax diversification on account types. And really, I want to see everybody have a little bit in each. Now, the clients that I'm working with now as they approach retirement, Roth is still a fairly new concept. It didn't come around until I believe it was 1998. So most people were very hell bent on investing in their traditionals. Roth 401ks are even newer than that. So not a lot of people have money in Roth as they approach retirement, but that doesn't mean you can't get money in, whether it's through contributions for your last few years of retirement, or after you enter retirement, you could start to do some Roth conversions to try and get some money from those traditional accounts into Roth so you can share in those tax benefits while in retirement.
So when you say conversion, are you saying that you can, let's say, take a regular IRA and somehow turn it into a Roth?
Yeah, I can convert a traditional IRA into Roth. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to pay tax on that money that I convert. So if I want to take $100,000 of traditional and put it into a Roth, I'm going to have to pay tax at whatever my income tax rate is to get it into Roth. But then once it's in Roth, will continue to grow tax free. And then when you decide to take withdrawals from it eventually, you will receive those withdrawals tax free as well. So I have a lot of clients that are doing Roth conversion in those gap years from the time I retire till the time I claim Social Security, or until I have to start taking my required minimum distributions when the government tells me I have to start taking those withdrawals.
A stupid question. there would be no reason ever would there to convert a Roth into a traditional IRA.
I haven't found one yet. I haven't
Okay.
found one yet. I don't even know if the mechanisms exist.
Yeah,
I
really. I mean, it would be kind of a dumb thing to do, it seems like.
think the
What
only
about
way you would do that is if you over contributed to a Roth to try and get money out, but that's neither here nor
uh,
there.
so if are there limits on how much you can put into some of these plans?
Yes, there's limits, and each plan has a different limit. So a traditional IRA has a $7,000 limit if you're under the age of 50, $8,000 if you're over the age of 50. A Roth IRA has the same 7,000 under 50, 8,000 over the age of 50. And then depending on which retirement plan you're looking at, whether it's a 401k, 403b, 457, simple, SEP, they all have different contribution limits as well, and they all will have some sort of catch up provision for those over 50 as well. And those change on an annual basis.
Is that maximum um, kind of a conglomerate? I mean, can you have uh, two 401ks? And do they each have that maximum, or is that, it's
It's
for both of
total.
them? It's
It'll
total.
be it'll be total. So if you're working for two companies, let's say you'll only be allowed to max out what the total is for the year.
Right. Um, what if you have an account like we did um, for our kids going to college? And we called it a 529 account.
Mm-hmm.
And what if there's money left over? Can you
Oh,
put that into an account, into a
you can
retirement
now,
account?
Steve. Steve, you must be reading up because that's a new law that just came out that where they said if you have extra money in 529 plans, we will allow you to slowly, it's subject up to the contribution limits, but you could slowly start to put that money into a Roth IRA.
I
Now,
like
there's a lot of nuance that goes along with it. The account has to be opened and owned for, I believe it's a period of 15 years. There's some different things that you have to fall in line with, but that's one way that they've settled on if you have extra money in those accounts to try and get it out and get it useful for retirement.
I love it. No, you talked a little bit, a lot, great stuff on the strategy of getting a retirement account or I'm putting it, investing. Is there a strategy at the other end when you start to take money out? Is there tax issues we should be aware of or reasons to maybe keep one more than the other or anything?
you know, there's strategies that are involved. I want to fill up those lower tax brackets with as much pre-tax money as I can. So what a lower tax bracket means to me could be different for everybody. So, the 10%, the 12%, 22, maybe even up to the 24. Fill that with as much pre-tax money as I need to get that out in a tax favorable manner. Okay. And then after I've done that, I've filled it up to my tax tolerance, I like to say. If I need additional income, well, then I'm looking at some of my other accounts, whether it's my non qualified accounts or my Roth accounts. Typically, I'm going to save Roth to the very end because it's so beneficial. Okay. So, I typically go my pre tax accounts, then my non qualified accounts, and then Roth if I need to. But again, that's where a proper plan comes into play. Now, early in retirement, when I'm in those gap years, I might be taking more withdrawals than I actually need. So let's say, for instance, I need $50,000 a year in income. Okay. I might withdraw 100 or $120,000 from my IRA or 401k, take the 50 that I need for income to live off of for the year, and then convert the rest of it to Roth. Again, just to try and fill up those favorable tax buckets and get as much money into Roth as I can. Because I mentioned RMDs one time, there are no required minimum distributions on Roth accounts or non qualified accounts, only on our pre tax accounts.
Got it. And is there a time you can't do this anymore? Are there age limits that say, okay, You can't. You're 90 years old. We're not letting you do any of this stuff.
No, the only limitation that I can think of that comes into play, once you hit that age where you have to take required minimum distributions, the portion of that required minimum distribution that's you must take cannot go into a Roth IRA. So, for instance, let's say you did $100,000 withdrawal, okay, and your required minimum distribution is $30,000. All right. That $30,000 has to remain outside of Roth. You could put it in your non-qualified account and reinvest it, but it cannot go into Roth. The remaining 70,000 could go into Roth. That's the only limitation that I see.
I got it. I got it. The This isn't really an investment account, but it sort of is, and we have a little bit of time. What about your house?
Okay.
It can have a lot of money sitting inside of it when you finally sell, and a lot of people sell at retirement.
Sure. You
Is there
know,
is there a reason not to sell early or not sell early or
this is a big discussion I have with a lot of clients. A lot of I here's what I actually see. Everybody talks about, oh, I'm gonna downsize in retirement. I don't need this big house. I don't need a four-bedroom house anymore. The kids are gone, they're successful, nobody's coming home, so we're gonna downsize. What I see when people downsize, they go from the 3,000 square foot house down to an 1,800 square foot townhouse, but the values are right around the same. Then there's a homeowners association and fee that goes along with the townhouse. The taxes are higher because we're moving to a nicer neighborhood, things like that. So I see that very often with clients where, from a net, they don't really save money by downsizing. They just have less house to clean and less yard to cut. Now, for those that go from the 4,000 or the 3,000 square foot house down to the condo and they have extra equity behind, that's up to them on how they want to approach it. Or if you decide to stay in the house and you need the equity eventually, there are some reverse mortgage specialists that can come in, whether you might need that equity for long term care or something along those lines. So there are ways to get the equity out of the house. It's usually not our first source unless you're truly determined to downsize and go to something smaller where you receive the excess equity.
is there a sort of if you don't do anything else, do this kind of a piece of advice you'd give when it comes to, retirement accounts? I mean, what would be the thing? God, just at least do this.
And I'm gonna beat this one dead, Steve. Plan, plan, because you don't know that extra $1,000 that you take from the IRA could cause what I call a tax torpedo. It could cause that $1,000 to intuitively, you're in the 12% tax bracket. You think, oh, I'm going to pay $120 because that's 12% of 1,000. But the trickle down or the waterfall effect that extra $1,000 in income might cause could push your Social Security to be taxed more. It could cause your capital gains to be taxed more. We don't necessarily know that, so that's why we need to have a withdrawal plan in place, a tax plan in place, and an overall financial plan in place to make sure that we don't encounter any of those.
Oh man, I love that. I love that thought, that because I wouldn't have thought about it.
Right.
Hey, unfortunately, we're out of time. So, Greg, thanks so much for being here today to talk about this retirement investment accounts, what they are, how they work, how they fit into a retirement plan. And right before we leave, if someone wants to get a hold of you, can tell us how to do so.
Steve, anybody that wants to get a hold of me can go to my website, www.penanceplanning.com, and you can reach out there, learn more about me and the firm and how we're helping people at or near retirement.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Steve, for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, joining us again today. If anyone has any further questions on today's topic, you can post it here. We can get you connected with Greg. Until next time, stay safe, stay